All right, welcome back. Yeah, I did tell you that after the news we would have Budeshi officially uh, on for another 30 minutes, and I have our guests from the PPDC here already this morning. And what else would we be discussing? The 2018 budget is the issue, the biggest issue on the table right now, and all of the controversy around it, whether to call alterations padding or just additions and subtractions by the National Assembly, is the bone of contention right now. We have in the studio with us Olise Omuka, creative designer and communications officer, here this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome. It's good to have you. And then we have Gift Maxwell, Budeshi Program Director.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome. It's
Thank
good to
you.
have you. So, first of all, let's take your general opinions on the budget delay at the National Assembly.
Good morning. I think budget delay is dangerous. I haven't seen any positive impact of budget delay, and the negatives of it is that it goes beyond me and you in Abuja. You know, I think we need to understand the ripple effect that it has, because we just sit down and say, oh yes, it's taking over 200 days again to pass the budget.
Yeah.
You know, the woman in the village who is desperately seeking for primary health care, basic health care, the effect to her is more than we can ever quantify. So for me, there absolutely is no plus sides to having a budget delay.
Olise, you have something to say to that?
I think it's quite unfortunate that we've been battling with this issue for the
For
past
a while, yeah.
20 years. I don't think there's been a time that the budget was signed, let's say in January. I think the earliest was 2013 when it was signed in February. That was the earliest we've had in recent times, and I cannot emphasize how dangerous this is to our economy. And at the time when we just came out of recession, we expect that things would run a little faster. We expect that the people in government would make sure that this important piece of legislation goes out as at when due. So I think it's quite worrying. It's really worrying.
It's something to worry about, and more to worry about is the issue of public procurement that is directly hinged on the issue of the budget. You know, when it's passed, when appropriations begin, and when people can actually, when MDAs can actually carry out, you know, all of their activities. So maybe you want to throw some light on how that directly affects the process of public procurement.
Okay, so public procurement is a process, and it starts from the planning, from the needs assessment down to the contract implementation. Now what you have is when the budget there is no budget, so MDAs can't plan because they don't know what policy directions the nation is going to follow, and that just cripples the entire economy. So when the budget eventually is passed, they have little or no time to effectively follow through the process. Before at times before you're completing a procurement process, they're asking you to round up, the budgetary year is over and you need to return funds to, you know, the National Treasury. So it helps. It's bad because the MDAs cannot plan and they can't execute these procurement processes efficiently, because whether you like it or not, there is some form of rush, and everybody's trying to prioritize and get their projects pushed forward. And it also affects even the contractors in the long run, because if I've been given a deadline, you know, I'm trying as much as I can to push hard to finish it. So at the end of the day, whether the job is up to standard, that's an issue that's entirely another discussion. So it's an effect that just goes round the table and hits everyone, because it affects the MDAs, it affects the contractors, and most importantly, you know, the people,
target,
the citizens who are supposed to get better service delivery are most affected as well.
Because I mean, yes, the government is doing its best to throw open procurement processes and make it more transparent. Recently, I was at one of the stakeholders meetings, and they are talking about a new no-coco platform that was created and all of that, so that people can engage, contractors can find out what's going on. What's it called? The citizens themselves can follow up on projects and all of that. But how can you follow up on projects that there's no money for? So I'd like to take it back a little bit. Okay, you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I want to add to what she to her comments. We are talking about fighting corruption in Nigeria. Okay?
Yes.
We know this is something that has plagued us for a very, very long time. And budget delay is one thing that further increases the opacity in procurement process. Now, what do I mean? The budget was passed 6 months into the fiscal year, right? So they have a very, very limited time to implement this budget. What that also means is that they are going to rush. And when they rush, it's not going to be as transparent as possible, which in turn leads to corruption. It's that simple. It's something that we've been battling for a long time. And it's so easy to see that passing this budget early give the parties involved in this procurement process better time to plan, better time to carry out this project.
Better time to plan. And then also spend exactly the amounts that were budgeted for, because of course if you are in a rush, you tend to spend a little more. Now, well, before we get to the next question, just thinking about how things have been all the while, building up to this 2018 budget. This budget is supposed to consolidate on the 2016 and then 2017 budget of recovery. There's still the big question of the level of implementation of those two budgets. How well did we do?
To be honest, I'm just going to speak from PPDC's perspective, and which is monitoring public procurement at the federal, state, and local levels. So last year, for example, we had this, we call it Abudeshi Waka Tour, and we were in 5 states, Anambra, Delta, Benue, Kano, and projects differ per state. Projects differ per state. Implementation status, for example, in Kano State, we saw the projects. Projects were up and running, but the issue was it what they needed at the time? So you find situations where they're building classrooms and they're not attending to little issues like toilets, boreholes, like immediate needs. So you ask, was there any form of needs assessment done in this place? But the actual project captured in the budget was done. But does it actually fit the need at that point in time? That's another question. When Delta State, you found issues where the project couldn't be located. Possibly we engaged the procuring entity and we're told that the project was relocated. So to us, rating the implementation of the 2017 or 2016, because they build up on each other to a certain degree above, we can say projects were seen in most states more than not seeing anything. So they did above average in our opinion, in our monitoring opinion.
Okay, so let's bring it down to the effect of this delayed budget passage to the areas of economy, education, and the health sector. How does this affect these two areas? You want to take that?
Yeah, the budget has several considerations.
Yes.
We have the recurrent expenditure. We have the capital expenditure, and it's capital expenditures that adds to economic growth, and it is this capital expenditure that is used to finance some of these healthcare projects and school projects. So when it is not passed in time, as we have always seen, these projects don't get completed in time. And these monies keep piling, they keep increasing every day, considering how fast our naira falls. Let me give you an example. The National Library here in Abuja, just close to the National Mosque, was contracted for 8 billion naira in 2006. Okay? Monies budgeted for the projects were not released as at when due. So the project has taken probably 12 years. And recently I heard it's going to take about 38 billion naira to complete the project. Not to start and finish, but to complete the project. So when you just leave projects abandoned, the price, the cost to finish this project, they increase. And in most cases, it even doubles what we'd have spent in starting and finishing this project. So, and now we're talking about education, we're talking about health. These are fundamental issues in our economy that should be given priority to. And so when budget is delayed, it terribly affects education and health.
All right. So, I mean, the aspect you've spoken about is use the National Library illustration and all of that. We've got a number of universities over most of the African countries. We have a number of universities that already have some degree of infrastructure and all of that. What we need in the educational sector now, for things to improve, is it directly linked to procurement processes?
Yes, because in my opinion, I would say yes, because at the end of the day, we're talking about infrastructure development. Now look at UBEC and TED Fund, who are primarily charged with funding, with making sure that the primary and secondary schools are, in good shape. And their budget estimates are captured in the appropriation. So if there's no releases or if the budget is delayed, schools are not built, hostels are not built. For the primary health care centers, they don't have equipment. So everything is just at a standstill, and it boils directly, you can't take infrastructure development, you can't take procurement away from it. I mean, contracting has been said to be government's #1 corruption risk. So they intertwine.
All right, so at this point, it's up executive and legislature, and there's a lot of name calling, a lot of finger pointing and blame game going on. It doesn't look like the citizens are a part of this discussion going on. What do we need to do as citizens?
It hurts me a lot to see what's going on, because you can see that there's a lot of bureaucracy, there's a lot of politicking, and at the end of the day, love for country comes last. Which should be the first, because that's why you are there, to represent us, to represent our interest, And at the end of the day, it might come down to a situation where citizens like us, CSOs, or even normal citizens need to start this drive again, need to start this advocacy, speaking to them, letting them understand what you're doing is not only affecting me, it's affecting my child in school.
But a lot of people say, well, that's just government money. I'm a businessman. I don't care. I take care of myself. I provide light in my house. I provide, what they call it? I have a borehole. I have,
That narrative has got to change. That narrative have got to change. I mean, the office of the citizen, like we always say, is the #1 office. We pay our taxes. We put them there. We voted them there. So that narrative has urgently, as a matter of urgency, it has got to change.
Are you going to say something to that?
I think we should quickly realize that we have so much power. Like you said, we put them there, and of course, we can take them out. So the thing is, we should make sure that we engage our reps, make sure you engage our leaders, make sure you engage those who are responsible for making sure that these things have been provided to you. You just don't fold your arms.
Sometimes they're not accessible. Sometimes you try to see your rep, you go to the National Assembly, you have to go through screening, fill this and that, and then at the end of the day, the person you meet is an aide. You never get to meet your rep. They're so inaccessible.
Well, thank God for social media. Talk about it. There's no bad information. Put it out there. Send your letters. Do what you have to do. Just keep talking about it. They are human beings, and whether you believe it or not, they listen. They are a lot closer to us than we think they are. So, just.
I think we needed that reassurance there. They're a lot closer than we think they are. Before we take, any parting words, let's see if we can bring in every other person listening into this conversation. First of all, we have spoken about how much, delayed budget passage actually affects our economy, affects our procurement processes, and affects the average citizen who, even though may think that it doesn't affect him directly, has a part in all of this. You may provide the light in your house, but you don't build the road that you drive on. You are going to travel. You don't regulate the aviation sector where you get to travel. So there are certain things that you must engage in to make sure that a change comes. So this is where we open the phone lines.
Morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
Fine, thank you, sir. What's your name?
Okay. My name is Friday.
Friday, welcome.
Okay. I want to say, well, you're doing a good job.
Thank you.
But just to correct an impression which I think is not very correct, I heard the guy say that budget has never been read early in the year. That's not true.
Did you say never? He said not in recent times.
No. He said never. He said the earliest was 2013. That's what he said. I remember
In
as a
recent
schoolboy
times.
in my late primary education or early in secondary, when Shagari was president, I know budget was being read on the 1st of January. You know?
Yeah.
Yes. Budget was being read
Hence
on
the
the 1st
reason
of
you
January.
said
That
in
means it's
recent
been passed
times.
before the new year. Always read on the 1st of January, just to correct that.
Okay.
And also, to talk about the fact that the budget, delay in budget stops planning or hinders planning is not true, not completely correct again, because the budget itself is a plan. It's been planned, which will be executed in the next year. Are we together?
Yes, we are together, my
It's
brother.
a plan that will not be implemented. Yes, there are problems. For instance, look at the 2017 budget. On the day the president signed the budget on Wednesday, that was the day Minister of Finance announced that 1.7 trillion has been released for capital expenditure. That's very bad. That's very crazy because
From
it's going to cause a
the
lot of
previous
problems.
budget.
You're going to, yes, inflation. You're going to pump so much money into circulation at a time. Then you give problems to the monetary authorities to start mopping up and all of that and trying to see that inflation is contained. Budgets should be taken care of, planned, and released in good time so that there will be planned projections in the economy.
Okay.
And then we'll get the citizenry will get value. Instead of keeping the whole thing delayed. Now this is June. Half of the year is gone.
All right.
And you want to release budget now. Well, when will you implement?
Thank you very much for your thoughts. Says really doesn't stop planning because the budget is a plan. But was that the context you were coming from?
No, I beg to differ. We understand that a procurement plan eventually is what you
Will be
defend,
implemented.
and that's what gets into the budget and all. But it's important to state that budgets are estimates. When it becomes law, then that's what the MDA runs with. Yes, you have a budget which has been passed into law, but you also need to prioritize. So the time it takes for you to submit your procurement plan, do your budget defense, you pretty much are not doing anything. You're not engaging in any form of procurement process because you don't even know
If
what
it will
will
be
be
approved.
passed.
Yeah.
That's the planning that I referred to. So you need to wait. There's a waiting time for your budget to be passed. Then you start prioritizing on what projects you are to
Carry out
embark
at
on.
what time.
So that was what we meant in the context of planning. Of course, you sit and you do your entire procurement plan. It's a draft. It's a plan for the year, and you go and do the budget defense.
And the issue of recent times, when you brought up Shagari, I saw the looks on your faces. And, oh well, apparently that's quite recent to him. Shagari, I didn't even meet Shagari. Let's see. Okay, so we have time for maybe 2 more calls before we take the last words from our guests from PPDC this morning on Budeshi, where we open up all of the processes and talk about them to throw light on the situation and also enlighten virtually every listener out there. The Office of the Citizen. Good morning. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, welcome.
This is Emeka from Gretma, from another Gretma from Lifetime.
Welcome.
Well, I want to talk on the issue of budget cut.
Okay.
I think it has become clear that the real enemies of Nigeria are not only in the presidency, but also in the National Assembly. I think we should advise our legislators to stop playing politics with everything.
Okay, so that said, the delay itself, what's your take on it?
Well, the delay is still the same thing. Why did they have to submit the budget just a few days ago? Making it impossible for the presidency to even go through it thoroughly. They just prevented him from returning it back to them. That's why they succeeded in doing it. They delayed it, dragged it until they now have a few days. They know that if they submit it earlier, the person would have returned it to correct this fraud. So they tweeted him directly. It's their fault.
Okay.
So they are playing politics with everything. That is wrong. And Nigerians are losing.
Okay. Thank you
That's
so
my
much
thing.
for your thoughts on that. And our last call, no, we don't have time for this last call. Let's take your last words this morning. If you were to, first of all, an advice to the Office of the Citizen, and then what else the government needs to know?
Okay, I think the first thing is for the government, I think the budget should be submitted a little earlier. The last one was submitted in November. So I think, let's say, a 3 months period seems fine to me. The legislature and the executive should work harmoniously. It should synergize to make sure that this budget is passed. And the MDAs also should make sure they play their parts in defending their budget. Or better still, this budget should be done in such a way that both parties come together to plan the budget so that we don't have these budget delays. Because
if you ask me, maybe they should even submit it 6 months before, because we've learned that it takes 6 months for
they
them
should
to
just
go
figure
through
a
it.
way to simplify the process. A lot of communication seems to come into play here. Synergy, love for country should come first. It goes beyond your personal constituents or your constituency projects. Find a way. We have a lot of public holidays in Nigeria. Why don't we just pick out one and say a day where we submit the budget? It could be 6 months, it could be 9 months, it could be 3 months, it could be 5 months, but let's all just come together. And I think a civil society might be something, it might be a cause that we'd have to take up again, to start speaking to them about it and showing them the impact of the budget delays. Just maybe then they would realize how negatively it impacts on the economy. It affects foreign direct investment, because investors are speculators. They're trying to figure out what policy direction is Nigeria going to take, and they don't have all the time. So if you keep delaying, they look elsewhere and go to more serious countries and put their money in there. The people want a bit of, like you said, we're just coming out of recession. We want to feel stable, we want to grow, but it just doesn't seem likely. And remember, next year is an election year, so these things.
So this year already doesn't look like a lot is going to be happening. All right. Well, we want to grow, and we want to grow sustainably. And one of the ways that we can grow sustainably is by, rethinking this entire budgeting process, which is a mirror image of our planning process as a country. PPDC, thank you so much. Let me just get these names right once again. Olise Onwuka. Okay, Olise Onwuka. Even though you look Musa Mohammed. And then we also have Gift Maxwell.
That was easy, right?
Yeah, that was simplified. Yeah. So Olise is the creative designer and communications officer at Budeshi. PPDC.
Yeah.
All right, and Give Maxwell is Budeshi Program Director. Thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to having you again next Friday.